It's my time, this my truth, so let me tell it how it is. See my story, his glory, I survived so you can live. Hell spoke, they told lies, now you gon' finally hear my side. Step to the mic, take back my seat, oh yeah, we lied. Hell, you spoke for too long, drag my name for too long. Thought you keep me mute, but no you won't now. It's my turn, so shut the hell up, the hell up, the hell up.
Hey, welcome back to Shut the Hell Up with yours truly, Miss Mo. I want to send a special shout out to you, amazing producer, Mr. Fossil. Thank you so much for your amazing beats. I'm enjoying this beat right here, and I hope those that are listening that you find yourself enjoying it as well. I want to thank you all. I see you listening to the podcast episodes, and I encourage you, tell a friend, tell someone about Shut the Hell Up. It is my life story that I give the ultimate praise and glory to God, that if it had not been for Him, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. I hope that life is being kind and being good to you all. And if you're going through something, I want you to know, don't give up. Don't give up. You will get through this. You will get through this, I promise you. I have come through so many levels of hell, and I promise you, if I would have never made it through, I wouldn't be able to tell you, don't give up. Times get a little rough, it gets a little hard, and it gets a little tough. You have some sad days, some happy days, some good days, some bad days. I often tell people, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life, the facts of life. So I am praying for you all, and yes, life has been different. The world has been different, but one thing I know for sure is that God is always the same, and He never changes. What He did before, He'll do it again. So I just want to encourage you to stay hopeful and let your light shine. And those of you that are struggling with your light, it's okay, because you can always get a renewal, and God can always restore you again. So let us be kind to each other, and let us pray ye one for another. I love you all, and I thank you. I thank you for joining me. And as I'm sitting here inviting you in to yes, another page of my story, and inviting you in about the ride to sudden change. Yeah, that's this topic this time, the ride to sudden change. Have you ever been in a ride and that ride took you somewhere unexpectedly? That ride changed your life? That ride drove you almost out of your mind? There were times that when I was going through in my late 20s, I would jump in the van and try to drive myself into a wall. That's how bad life was for me. And so this particular ride is bouncing off the last episode, my first heartbreak. It's the ride leaving my dad. Oh, what a change happened to me once I got in that car. My mother turned around, as I told you before, cursed me out and told me to shut the hell up from crying because I was looking out that back window screaming, "Daddy, daddy. I was so heartbroken. And then she told me that she hated me, and that she said a lot of things on that ride, that if your ears were in there, oh my God, I didn't know what I did to deserve that. And then I started thinking that maybe I should have stayed myself outside like my cousin warned me, because it seemed like that anger was shifted towards me. And she started saying how I look like those Terrys. Wow. That ride brought out a lot in my mom. And if I never knew how she felt, I knew on that ride that she felt a lot against me. And as I'm thinking back, she never once said anything to my other siblings. She just zoomed in on me. So you can imagine how I felt on that ride. It was a very, very scary ride, because I didn't know if she was going to reach back there and grab me up, choke me, slap me, or whatever. All I know is that look she gave me, I knew I was in big trouble. But the only thing is that I didn't know what I was in trouble for. And as we continued driving with my grandmother taking us, Lord knows, I didn't know where we were going. I'm sure my siblings felt the same, but her and my mom knew. Because at that time, my mother didn't even have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. She didn't have anything. She didn't have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G. Isn't that something like how we do now, that we think things will stay the same? We're not expecting sudden changes in life, that we think that when we get caught and tangled up and strangled up in a pattern, that if we don't have a plan B, C, and D, we're lost, we're doomed. And my mom didn't have a plan, because she thought, as always, that she will go out in the streets for some days, come back home. But she didn't know that this particular day that she will come back home and find her man in the bed with his niece. And I remember my dad and mom will argue here and there, and she will always accuse him of messing with his niece. And he would yell in her face, "That's my niece, that's my niece. I wouldn't do that, you know." But she was right. And I think her anger was so hostile. I mean, it was crucial. It was very bad, because she knew that she was right and he was lying to her about it. And so that ride, she let out a lot, sitting in the back seat watching my mother just yell and scream and cry and just destroy my dad's image with words that was hard for me to bear, because that was my daddy. That was my daddy, and I saw him as a good man. I saw him as a loving man. I saw him as the best thing that could have happened to me at that time. And to hear her degrade him and drag him and badmouth him, it was painful. And I know, she had that right to express how he made her feel. But for my small ears and my small emotions and my big heart for him, it wasn't good for me to hear that. And so that was a very, very dark drive. And my grandmother going off and degrading him as well. And they're going back and forth, and just, it was bad. And so I continued to cry, My grandmother drove us to 5868 Cates. St. Louis, Missouri is where I was born, and I was raised a little bit there up until 8. And even though we were still in St. Louis, we were going to a place that I will never forget. A place that I will never forget. I found out they tore down the building that I lived in, so it's no longer there. I wish it was still there so I can go back and visit, but my grandmother drove us there because my auntie, her daughter, my mom's sister, lived there. And so we moved in with auntie. Auntie at that time had 2 children. She had a boy and a girl, and it was exciting to be around them, but I was missing my auntie in that kitchen cooking and listening to music and dancing. I was missing the opportunity to be at the curb waiting on Daddy to pull up from work. I was missing my dad grabbing me up in his arms as I jumped, as I leaped, and hugging me and kissing me and telling me how much he loved me. Sudden change. It's hard for you to get around when things just suddenly happens and change, and now what was no longer is. And so I didn't know how to adjust, adapt. I didn't know how to be all right in my new normalcy. See, no one sat down and said, well, you know what, this happened and this is the reason, and Mom loves you. And as I do for my children, as when they were little, I always let them know what was the next thing we had to do. I never wanted to keep them in the dark about anything. The only thing that we'll get to the church days, I promise you we will, is that I didn't let them see me cry and break down a lot, because I always remember the time I'm talking about now when I saw my mom. My mom broke down. She broke down, and I didn't have the language or the understanding then that she was crushed. And to watch her fall apart in that car and to see her broken in ways that I couldn't bear or dare to put that in front of my children, because I can still see my mom. I can still feel that pain. I can still hear that cry. I can still see her tears dropping off of her chin, rolling down her face, climbing out of her eyes. And just knowing that my daddy broke her in places. He broke her in places that, as you continue to listen, she was never the same. And my mom was still this angry, violent woman before it happened. But when I tell you that the rage and the violence and the anger, it went to a level that, oh my God, it was by the grace and mercy of God that I made it, that my siblings made it. And they didn't go through as much as how I went through, but they did go through some things. But I'm telling you, she was never the same. And so when we pull up at the apartment building, there were people outside sitting on the stoop, and we're walking up the stairs and we're dragging our black garbage bag that we had to pack our stuff, and I'm crying because I left my dresses, and my daddy is gone, and I wasn't happy. And it's sad that my grandmother didn't wrap her arms around us and say it's all right. It's sad that my mom didn't even wrap her arms around us and let us know that, yeah, we went through this, but we're going to be all right. We had to carry that pain. And I can only speak for myself. But I don't know how my siblings felt, but I know how I felt. I felt broken. I felt lost. I felt scared. I didn't even know what to think. I didn't know how to embrace that new normalcy. All I know is that we took our bags in, we said hi to our cousins, my auntie talked to us, and that was it. And Mama went back to living life. She went back to hanging out in the streets. She went back to coming in some days, and some days we did not see her. Auntie was working a lot. And then when Auntie come home, Auntie would go out, meet up with her friend or whatever. And so we were left together a lot. My siblings and I and our cousins, we were left alone a lot. So we found ways to entertain each other, be it TV, Price is Right was my thing, cartoons. So we would watch TV, we would play house, we would hump on each other, we would do whatever we could find ourselves doing. My sister was sometimes, my oldest sister who was 11 months older than me, rest wherever you are. She passed away at the top of the year. And she would fix something for us to eat. She was always having to be Mama. And so we were lost. We were giving such a change and not having an explanation besides Daddy slept with his knees. We didn't know what to, let me keep saying I, because I can't speak for them. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know how to unpack that. And so we continued to go on and we watched Mom. I watched Mom crumble. And she started drinking more. She always was smoking cigarettes. So she was smoking and drinking, and then she was smoking weed, and then she just became this wild woman. And so there were times when her brother, which was my favorite uncle, her oldest brother, let's just say Uncle B, he would come in from Atlanta to St. Louis and he would visit, and I'd be all excited. Uncle B. He would come in and he would have like 3 or 4 prostitutes. And they were high-class prostitutes because they had on mink coats. One had this white dog. She was a Caucasian woman. She had this white poodle dog with the bows in their hair. So they would come up the little sidewalk and he would be in his suit, nice suit, hair all curled and shades on and necklace around his neck, ring on his finger. I mean, he was looking good, and they were too. So they would come in town, and I would watch my mom get dressed and go out in the street and be a prostitute with them, go meet with clients. And I would stand there and watch them put on their wigs and makeup and talk about who they're going to meet. And my uncle's sitting there instructing them. And I remember one night my mom was getting dressed and he said to her, "You're not going, Elaine." And she begged him, "B, come on, let me go. I want to do this." And I remember him just saying, "All right." And she went on and got dressed, smiling. I mean, she'll smile when she wanted to do something she wanted to do or whatever, put a smile on her face. But I didn't see Mama smile a lot. And she got dressed, watching my mother get dressed to go sell her body. And again, this is no judgment to my parents or anyone that I will tell my story, my truth, and what I've experienced in life. Because again, we don't know why people arrive to where they are now, and why they are doing what they're doing, and why they are hurting others. It's so easy for us to judge. And I can admit, when I was angry with my life, angry with my parents, angry with my family, myself, yeah, I had some choice words to say. But it wasn't until I learned that you don't put your mouth on something you have no clue. See, I didn't know what my mother endured as a child, because my mother was very private about her life. And she would share bits and pieces, but she can tell you stories about everybody else, but she's very particular. She was very particular about what she would tell you about her. And so for her to become what she was becoming at that time, some pain was at her root, some abandonment, rejection. And just as we were not comforted, and we didn't get an explanation or some type of understanding to the sudden change, I believe she had to go through that same thing. And when you don't learn, or you're not taught, or you're not comforted in a good way, in a right way, that pain, that trauma, that sadness, that brokenness that you endure becomes a storm, an ongoing storm, an ongoing tragedy in your life, until you sit down somewhere and get healed. And watching my mom, this sudden change. Yeah, I saw before we left my dad, she would leave the house. But I didn't see my mom ever getting dressed to go sell her body. And watching her smile and laugh and puff on the weed and get the liquor and pour it into a glass and drink, and they're passing each other dresses, and I'm gonna wear this, and they're grabbing a wig off of the bed and putting on the high heels and spraying the perfume and getting ready while my uncle is instructing. That was something. I didn't know then that being a pimp or being a prostitute was something bad, because one day when we were outside and our friends were talking and they were saying, my mama do this and my daddy do this, and I was so excited to say, and my Uncle B, he a pimp. When I tell you, when they stopped and looked at me, I didn't even know that was bad. I didn't know it was wrong. All I know is that he was a pimp. He had money. That's the first time I saw $100, but he had a drawer full of hundreds. So I'm thinking that was a good thing. And watching them get dressed and admiring how they were dressing themselves up and talking about their clients. And I remember one of his prostitutes, let's call her Blue. And she was saying how one man told her to bend over and pee in his mouth. And my mother was laughing like, oh, he asked you to do that? And I'm just standing there. And they didn't have, back then they would tell you, get out of grown folks' business, get out. But sometimes they weren't even paying attention that you was paying attention. I told you, I was always that observant child, and I watched and listened. And watching them get ready and leave out the door. Nobody is saying anything. And the only thing that you are threatened with is, don't you open this door for nobody. Don't answer it, or I'm going to kill you when I get back. Yes, ma'am. And we locked the door, and there we are. sitting alone with no one there but us. Sudden changes. And I'm from the era of the 70s. Born in 69 and living through the 70s. And they will sweep things under the rug and you better not talk about this, that, or the other. And if somebody did something, it's a lie. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So we're sitting there. And always in my mind, I'm talking to God. Husband, why mama leave? Husband, what are we going to eat? Not one time. That's my mom getting dressed. Not one time did she say, are you hungry? Or I love you. Good night. Make sure you brush your teeth. Not one time. Before my mother left my dad, like I told you before, she was barely. I could vaguely see her because she wasn't always around. She was there, but she wasn't there. And so to see her continue in that pattern, in fact, it enhanced itself. It wasn't new, but it was still a sudden change because she really didn't see us. She didn't see me. All she thought about was her. And I know, after growing up myself, I know the magnitude of how pain can drive you out of your mind. It can drive you places that you don't even, like in a car when you're driving, there are blind sides that you can't even see another car coming over those blind spots. That's how life can drive you, that you don't even see your children sitting over there needing you. You don't even see that they need a hug. You don't even see that they want to know, where is daddy? What happened? Or can we see daddy? Too afraid to ask those questions because you're told, don't talk about it. It's over. Nah. I'm sitting there, a 4 to 5 year old little girl with a broken heart, watching my mom try to pick up with life and in pain and doing things without making sure I'm all right. I tell you, when I became a mother, it was my duty and it was my responsibility to always let my children know what's going on. And there are times they liked it and sometimes they didn't, but I made it my duty to let them know, because I was riding places in life that oftentimes it caused sudden changes, and I didn't want them to not be in the know. I didn't want them to not understand why I had to walk away from this person and leave that place and move to this place. I always wanted them to know, because that was one of the things I was missing as a child that I never received, was an explanation, was understanding. And even though I witnessed my dad having sex with his niece, I was a 4 or 5 year old girl, little girl. I didn't understand what I was looking at. I just know, I hope my mom doesn't walk in the door. I didn't know how to make out with that. I knew it was his niece, his sister's daughter, but I didn't know. I didn't know if that was right or if that was wrong. I knew it was wrong the way my mom's reaction, the anger, the tears, and her trying to get at them to kill them. That's when I knew it was wrong. But I didn't know that ride was going to take me to a change. in my life, watching the changes that my mother was making and the changes that was happening to me, I became quiet, withdrawn. I was a very, very shy little girl. I was scared to speak up. I was scared to open my mouth at times. And the only time I will open my mouth is when I know I'm being threatened to be beaten. And I didn't want to be beaten. And I will open my mouth anytime I was told to lie. And I didn't want to lie because I was always that kid that I wanted to tell the truth. And any of you know me now, you know that is my thing. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. Because it's the truth that sets you free. And even though my truth cost me a lot of butt whoopings and beatings, I still told it. I encourage you right now that sudden changes happens upon us all. And I encourage that if you have children, or even if it's just yourself, you owe it to yourself why this is happening. You owe it to yourself to get an understanding, because everything that is unturned becomes the war that is dead in your soul. Watching my mother go through these changes, it confused me. I was confused and I didn't know what to think. I didn't understand any of it. It was too blurry. It was too cloudy. It was too congested. My mind was going through so many things as a little bitty girl. And not one of the grown-ups in my life took the time to sit down and talk. We didn't even get to get counseling. We just had to accept it, shut up, and just be. There was a time in my life that I hated the fact that my grandmother answered the phone. I hated the fact that she drove over to my aunt's house to pick us up. And I hated the fact that she took us to 5868 Caves. It was a ride, a sudden change, a ride. I'm so grateful for that woman that prayed for me. She was right that I will go through some things and things will happen to me. And as I continue to tell my story, you will see that it was good that she prayed for me in advance. Mama didn't come back home for a couple of days, and when she came back, she was out of the wig, the makeup was off. She had a cigarette in her mouth. The flashy, dressy clothes that she had to wear for her client was off. And she was back to being angry, cursing, yelling at us. Get out of my face. Get the F out of my face. Go in the room. And we would be running, bumping into each other, going into the room. Because you just didn't know what you were going to get with my mom. And I often think about when God said to me, go back in your past and come out better than you've ever come out before. Because again, we'll go in our past and think about all, like I'm talking about this. I will get angry. I will be mad. And I will just wish I didn't have her as a mom. But I don't think like that anymore, because as God instructed me, I came out better, because I had to understand that there was a lot underneath her soul, that it was at the root of her being, that it was pain that was never dealt with. It was anger, it was frustration, it was abandonment, it was rejection, it was abuse that was never dealt with, and that she could only produce what's underneath her. And oh, how I wish that she could have found some healing for her soul. I wish that she would have gone to counseling the time that she witnessed that and got proper help. But as I said before, in the 70s, we don't do that, because she became my worst nightmare and the monster of my everyday living. I want to stop here and just say to you all, if it's some things that you need to talk to your children, talk to someone about what you're struggling with on the inside, hidden secrets, sudden changes that happened that traumatized you, that broke you, that pained you, that ostracized you, that caused you to be in war secretly within. I encourage you to talk it out. I encourage you to unveil, take the sheet off of it, lift the rug and sweep it out. Because I learned that which you don't deal with will deal with you later. And sometimes it will deal with you along the way. I thank God that He has healed me from that part of that pain right there that I carried for years, losing my dad, and suddenly we're living with my auntie, and then we're moving across the hall from her in the same apartment building, and watching my mom dress up to go and sell her body for her brother, and just seeing life in a whole different way from auntie's house. I encourage you to get the healing, even if it's from your past, even if it's from the things that you saw, the things that you were taught, the things that you endured, the things that you suffered, the things that you lost in life. Get your healing, because that was a pain that I struggled and suffered with for years. And this is just the tip of the beginning. I encourage you along the way, get your Kleenex. My story is never told from a victimized place, but a victor, because God has healed me and brought me a mighty long way so that I can share with you that ride suddenly changed my life. And that happy little girl that stood by the curb waiting on Daddy became the most saddest, broken, traumatized, and abused child from that ride. I want to thank you all for your time and for listening, and I hope I said something. I hope that my story shed a light where you can be able to talk about something from your childhood, something that hurt you and traumatized you, something that you didn't understand. Maybe you can find a friend or even talk to your children. Talk to God. Even talk to yourself. You're not crazy. And get that thing out. Get it healed. I pray that you be inspired by this message, because I am in telling it. You matter, and your soul deserves to be healed. Your heart deserves to be healed. Your mind deserves to be healed. You will be amazed at how many people are walking around with childhood trauma. And just because they are adult and that they're bigger than what they were then, doesn't mean that it erased the pain or the memories. I pray that God heals and that God gives you the courage to deal with that thing. Because I thank Him for the courage, the strength, and the power and the healing for mine. God bless you all. I pray that you have an amazing night. I thank you all for listening and joining with me. I have more coming, and I don't want to pour it all in one episode, so I got to give a little bit at a time. But I promise you, you will get every page. This is just the tip of the beginning. God bless you all. I love you. I appreciate your time. And I thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, make sure you catch up on all the other episodes of Shut the Hell Up. I will talk and see you soon.